who can't make it. So public comment is Alice.
Good evening, I'm Alice Hogan. I work for Navajo, Arlington. We are a nonprofit that supports affordable housing development in Northern Virginia, and I work on the Arlington components of that. I just had a few updates I wanted to mention, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be on the agenda tonight. So just in case everyone didn't know, we probably learned about the expanded housing options updates from that lawsuit, and I don't know if we'll discuss that this evening or not. I also wanted to mention that we have an immigration and affordable housing issues working group. So if there's anyone in the room or online who is working with the immigration population and wants to join our group, learn about how we're helping nonprofits to support immigrant residents around Arlington and Nova, please let me know. And then there are a couple of public engagement opportunities. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is having a hearing on Friday the 25th, 4 p.m. if people wanted to speak about that. They're updating their plan and plan to utilize the vouchers in a new way. And then the area aging plan for Arlington is also up for comment, and that is an online opportunity until the 22nd of July. And then I'm thinking Alex has been forwarding our newsletter to you all. So thank you so much for doing that. So I just wanted to highlight, I know tonight we're going to talk a little bit about health and housing. So it happens that our Lunch and Learn for July is also on that topic. So it's at noontime on July the 21st. It's a free event. So again, you could check that newsletter, or anyone else who's not getting and is interested, please let me know and I can connect you. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Yeah, also Kellen and I usually attend, and some of you attend the monthly Housing Action Arlington meetings with Navajo, and they're very helpful. Learn about all the updates on Wednesdays.
Second Wednesday of the month.
Second Wednesday, thank you. Is that it for public comment?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Does anyone have any changes to make to the notes from last time?
Okay, the penultimate on the last page, instead of gateway, put in pedestrian bridge over eastbound Langston Boulevard. Need a
and I do also believe the date is inaccurate. That will be changed to the correct date.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the notes? I'll second. And do we need to roll call?
You can.
Here we got. All right, if we have no objections, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. All right, moving on to Shirlington House. I believe that's the developer presentation.
Great, thank you. Let's see if I am able to share my screen. Promises. I don't have to ask if you can see because I can see here. Great. Well, thank you all for your time this evening. My name is Kedrick Whitmore. I'm a land use and zoning attorney with Venable LLP, and happy to bring you the proposal for Shirlington House. This property, great, is currently improved. We got a little lag here. It's currently improved with 136 dwelling units and 567 parking spaces. Like it's not updated. Alex, would you mind sharing? Because I think this is going to take a
Yeah.
presentation. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. As mentioned, this is an infill development at the existing Shirlington House property. You'll see here the existing Shirlington House is 436 residential dwelling units. I should note that this is just south of Shirlington and is one of the few market rate, still close to market rate, affordable apartment buildings left in Arlington County. And the great news is we're retaining all of these units and we're adding some infill. As you can see, it is dominated by a significant amount of surface parking and is heavily underutilized compared to the number of units that are here. On the next slide, you'll see some information about our proposal. Great. This is the existing condition today. You can see that it fronts on 31st Street in the top left corner. And you can see that the main element of this is the grade. There's a significant drop off from the parking garage down to 31st Street. And what you're seeing there, the white pieces on the right are actually the walls of the parking garage. And then as the grade comes up, the parking garage is built back into the hill. But there's this large drop off to 31st Street. And then you have some space on the other side and then a wall to 395. And that view is a little farther to the northeast there in the bottom right. You can see that there's a portion of that hill that is not encumbered by the parking garage, and that is where the new multifamily will be located. The next slide will give you some more information on the proposal. So I'll just stand up here to show you all. This again is the existing Shirlington House apartments to remain. This here is what you saw, the lining of 31st Street. With the parking garage here. And what we're proposing to do is infill that vacant space I showed you in the corner here with a multifamily building with 59 units. That does not have garage behind it, so it can push back a little farther here. And then along that garage wall in that sloped area you saw here, we're proposing 14 liner units. These are large units, 3 bedrooms, akin to a townhome. But we think a really great opportunity to use capture some of that unused space. And create some more much needed housing in that area. So the next slide gives you a little information. This is that multifamily building. This is the kind of edge of the site. As you approach it, you can see the multifamily building in the foreground and those liner units in the background. The next slide is a view farther down 31st Street. These are the liner units. You can see they're kind of similar to townhomes, but a little larger, maybe similar to 2/2s, but a different product type than we're accustomed to seeing in Arlington, which is something that we're very excited about. The next slide shows you the full set of tabulations. I won't go through these in detail, though I'm happy to do so if you like. I would direct your attention to the number of dwelling units. There are 436 existing units, as I mentioned. There will be 59 units in the new multifamily building and 14 of these liner units for a total of 73 additional units on site. Again, we are maintaining all of the existing units within the Shirlington House building. So the next slide is just a quick overview of the public benefits that we're providing here, the community benefits. Happy to talk through any of these, but I think the most salient point here is on-site dwelling units. We're providing 12 total units, 6 1s and 6 2s in the new multifamily building at the site. So we're retaining the existing building, we're building the new multifamily and the new liner units, and we're putting 12 new affordable units within that multifamily. So just a summary on the next slide here. We are adding 12 ADUs. We are not displacing any of the existing units with existing tenants. All those ADUs will be in that multifamily building, and this will be a typical 30-year affordability period at rents up to 60% AMI. So with that, I'll close out and we'll be available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
And I'll give the staff presentation really quickly. So I don't want to duplicate too much information, but it's an 8.4 acre site located in Shirlington. It's adjacent to I-395 to the south, Park Shirlington Apartments to the west, and Citizen Apartments to the east and north. So as mentioned, there are 436 apartments currently there, and looking to add more units, 59 in a multifamily building and 7 townhouse style units with 2 units each for 14 of those liner units. So this site plan is a little bit different than some of the usual ones you see because of the base contribution. So because there is basically, usually there's two components, the base and the bonus. Given that the existing apartment complex maxes out that base density already, the applicant is only requesting additional density above the site plan base for the infill development. So therefore, there is only an affordable housing contribution to achieve on the bonus density requested and no base contribution. And so to achieve that bonus density, there will be 12 on-site casts consisting of 6 1s and 6 2s, and they will be affordable for a term of 30 years at 60% AMI. And as mentioned, one of those casts will be type A accessible. Another thing that's a little bit unique and different about this site than other site plans is it is located in the housing conservation district, which it might be one of the very first site plans to go through with that. But basically, it's a designation to preserve kind of the market rate affordable housing, to encourage and incentivize the distribution of affordable housing throughout the county, and to preserve and enhance existing apartment neighborhoods. So you can see some goals bulleted here. Basically, it's to preserve market rate, provide rental casts up to 60, and the site plan proposal is consistent with all of those policies. You'll also see that it meets affordable housing master plan goals, creating casts through zoning requirements, increasing geographic distribution. It has family size units. There will be one CAF unit for one accessible CAF unit, and CAFs will be created close to transit. Really quick, looking at the racial equity of the census tract versus the county as a whole. So using the 2023 American Community Survey data, shows a proportionally smaller white and Asian populations than the county as a whole, 54 versus 63 and 6 versus 7 or 6 versus 11%. And then there's a larger percentage of Black and multiracial and combined populations than the county as a whole. There is also a larger Hispanic or Latino origin population than the county as a whole. You'll see that represented in the chart there. So the proposed 12 on-site casts will benefit and enable income-eligible families to live in an area of the county that is transit proximate and contains community amenities. In terms of who is burdened, the proposed units will be affordable up to 60% AMI and not be affordable to households with very low incomes and who may not be eligible for housing grants or housing choice vouchers. For this reason, one could say that very low income households are missing from this opportunity as well, since these households may not have access to these units if they're still unaffordable. And we know this information based on the census tract information for this geographic area. In terms of what do we do, the county has an opportunity to consider the site plan's affordable housing program in light of these benefits and impacts. So staff recommends approval of the affordable housing program, which is 12 on-site CAFs. So that is the staff presentation.
Great. Do we have any public comment on this topic?
No.
Okay. Okay, questions from commissioners to the applicant?
So I know you whizzed by the slide and I see it. What is the composition of 1 and 2 bedrooms in the regular?
I did not mean to whiz by. Do you mind, Alex, putting it back up? We can go. No, absolutely. I want to make it available if folks want to talk about it, but some, you know, if I don't want to. Yeah, of course.
That might be.
Larger units.
Yeah, it's slide 7. There you go. Great. Maybe we can zoom in so folks can see, but I'll just read it out. So in the existing Shirlington House building, there are 168 studios. That is upside down. 3 junior 1-bedrooms, 197 1-beds, 68 2-beds to get to that 436. That's right. So for the proposed, the multifamily building will have 10 junior 1-bedrooms, 29 8 1-bedrooms, 4 1-bedroom plus dens, 13 2-bedrooms, and 4 3-beds. And then the liner units will all be 3-bed, which we're excited about. So it's 18 3-bedroom rental units, which is difficult to find in the county.
What's the difference between a junior bedroom and a 1-bedroom?
Sure, it's a designation based on whether there's a window or not. So a junior one, you've still got a separate room for it, but it's just not a window, so we don't call it.
I have a question about the breakdown, and this might be for Alex, but in terms of what was required for the contribution, was that a 2 million to the APEC?
That might have been a typo. That's the Ballston one later.
Okay.
The bonus density contribution is 6 1-bedrooms and 6 2-bedroom units for a total of 12.
Okay,
So there's 2,002,0590 on this.
That might be for the other project. Yeah, I can make that correct.
Okay, yeah, I thought they were gonna give an additional 2 million in addition to the 12.
That is the other project later
Okay.
If we
tonight.
do it, I have to
I
pay,
just
so I
saved,
can't.
I just saved you $2 million.
You personally.
so in terms of like what the bonus density was, is that calculated based on the 436 as well? Like, or like, where did that bonus density come from?
Yeah, so they're requesting a higher density than is currently at the site. But basically what's happening is the base density is what's considered at the site now. And so they don't have to pay a base contribution on the affordable housing ordinance because that density is already there. So what they are really achieving is from the base of that. And so it is exclusively bonus density. So yeah, they're requesting bonus density for, 73 total units on top of what the base is. And out of that comes the 12.
And would you say that that is like 12 units would be standard for that amount of bonus density, or is it higher or lower?
So each site plan valuation does hinge largely on rental comps. And so I would say for this area, that is pretty standard. I think, it's hard to compare site plans exactly because they all have very different site assumptions. But I would say getting 12 on-site CAFs out of 73 bonus units is definitely something that the county is very supportive of and yes, is proposing be recommended
Okay.
or adopted by the board.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, like I know for me, like I was being 12 and that seems pretty high for 73 units from what other projects we've seen, but I guess that's the bonus. So yeah, I don't know if there's any other thoughts anyone has.
How do you do the construction without inconveniencing because they're very close, even though it's space, how do you do the construction without inconveniencing current residents and making sure that the safety, the structure, because it is at a slope and then they have that
Yeah.
wall, how does that?
No, great question. Can you jump to slide 4 if you would, Alex? So the first thing to keep in mind is that this is a much larger site than I'm used to seeing doing work in Arlington. This is a big site. And so you do have actually a pretty good distance in any event between the existing building and the proposed buildings. Certainly, the folks who live right here, right, will have a little bit of disruption, but as you kind of move farther out, you really won't have too much impact. The other reason there won't be as much is because of that drop in grade. You're really sitting above the construction site at that point. Now, this is a very cool way they're doing this, right? You don't see this very often to have units that are this narrow that are here, but they're really going to be placed butted up against the garage, and not have to. We'll have additional reinforcement as necessary in these areas of the garage, but we're not going under it, so we're not going to be damaging the structural integrity of it at all. It's actually going to be sitting on top of the ground next to it. And actually, I have a slide that showed a little more information about that because I just thought this was a really cool thing from a construction perspective. Can you go to slide 12 of this presentation? In the appendices. So this is the street section. Some more views. It's actually, sorry, go back. Yeah, So this is what it's going to look like in the end. This is the existing garage here, this vertical wall, and you'll see that the buildings are not relying upon the garage for their stability. They're on the ground themselves. And in the current condition, it's basically this, right? It's this long slope. So we're just going to cut this down, be able to lay the building right here and get enough space for these liner units. So I think a really cool use of space that you don't see very frequently.
So is that an underground garage there?
Partially. At this point, it is not underground because of the grade. Now, as you know, as we talked about, this area goes up as you go into the site. And so at a certain point, it hits the ground and then it is actually underground given what it is.
And how long, do you have an estimate of how long of construction time?
I don't have an estimate of how long the construction is going to take. I would guess once permits begin, 18 months, 18, 24 months, but I'm not certain about that.
I think it's a great innovative project. I mean, I haven't been down that part of the county in ages, so I had to look at the map to see where that was. But I think it's great. I mean, it seems much better than the development near the Costco in Pentagon City where they built units in the front. Those look more cramped. This has good gods of space. I mean, you can build more units if you want to get rid of the pool.
Yeah.
Or put a rooftop pool, but that's a huge site. So commend you guys for doing this.
Yeah, just a quick note. Yeah, I think there's no additional parking that's being added to the.
Correct.
So yeah, I think, being able to, which I assume there's probably plenty of parking, considering there's like 560 some spaces. So I think that's just really a good use to add. There's no parking costs are going into this. So that's with that's $50,000 a unit that's being saved, right? Just by building this. Another note is that this is a somewhat smaller building, even though there's about a little bit 10 or under units per floor, but has 2 stairs. So I think if not now, but looking at the future, like imagine if we could have a single stair, we could think of the configurability of sites small.
They'll do it. Oh, we gotta change the law.
Yeah. No, just saying for future that this sites like this it'll be even easier to slot in, maybe not one building like this, but maybe 2 or 3 around even lower cost construction. So that's just my thoughts.
I get a motion to recommend approval of the site plan.
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
okay, let's do roll call. You have to.
Yeah. Might be.
Oh, it's right there. Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Macbeth is not here. Commissioner Surface? Yes. Commissioner Wenger, yes. Commissioner Leonard is not here. Commissioner Ventrone?
Yes,
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner McGilvray is not here. Commissioner Blake? Yes. Commissioner Coleman is not here. Commissioner Fierro is not here. Commissioner Montgomery
Yes.
and Commissioner Ross.
I second it.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll recommend approval of the project. Thank you. Great. Moving on to One Roslyn.
Great. And you'll hear from me again. Hope you're not tired of me yet. And Alex, would you mind sharing that presentation as well? Just give it a mission. Use your computer.
So before we get going, my name is Melissa Danowski. I'm in the housing division. I've actually been in the housing division almost 13 years, but it's been a while since I've been to this commission. So I know there's a lot of new faces for me. So it's nice to meet you all, but the applicant will do the presentation and then like my colleague Alistair Millen did, I'll go through the handout and then.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Again, my name is Kedrick Whitmore with Venable LLP and excited to present you the proposal for One Roslyn. On the next slide, you'll see a vicinity map showing the location of the property. It is in the heart of Roslyn, just south of Langston Boulevard, adjacent to the new Holiday Inn project on its west and the JAG RCA building former site to the east there. And one of the things you'll notice is that the building's set very far back from Langston Boulevard currently, and we're excited to be able to bring that up and create a much better urban condition. On the next slide, in case this sounded familiar to you, that's because it was initially approved back in 2012 to be replaced with an office-heavy scheme by the former owner. That building was never built for reasons that you can imagine. But as you see, it really had a very small residential component. It was only 133 units, outpaced by the office at 624,000 square feet. So we're happy to be bringing an all residential proposal at this time. And on the next slide, you'll see the details of that. This shows the 3-unit configuration that we're going to have. We're going to have one tower on the northwest side, one on the northeast side, and then a third tower flanking the southern portion of the site along 19th Street. We will have a total of 845 units, dispersed with 461 in the west, 311 in the south, 311 in the northwest, and 73 in the northeast. Currently, the northeast building is planned to be an ownership building, condominium ownership building, which we're very excited to provide given the dearth of those units in the market today. The next slide will show you the breakdown of the unit mix in those various towers. Again, I won't belabor any of these, but happy to go back and walk through them in detail as we go through our discussion. Unlike the last proposal that was purely bonus density, this has both a base and a bonus contribution to the Affordable Housing Investment Fund. That base contribution would pencil out to $3.6 million. And then in speaking with staff, and I'm sure Ms. Danowski will go over that in greater detail in her presentation, we're going to be providing an additional cash contribution to the Affordable Housing Investment Fund to offset the bonus density, and that's to the tune of $7.5 million. So there are some other cash contributions that we show here, but in terms of housing, it results in a contribution of over $11 million to the AHIF fund, which we are very proud of. I'll just walk you around the site very briefly here so you can get a sense of what it looks like. So the next slide shows you the view from Georgetown. You can see that northeast and northwest tower in the foreground, flanked by the southern tower in the background. We'll just walk around the site. The next slide shows you the northeast corner with that for sale tower. The next slide is from 19th Street and shows you that southern tower holding the southern edge of the site. The next slide moves around to the west to show you the corner, the southwest corner of the site. And then finally, the front, I guess the front, you call it, from Langston Boulevard and the northwest tower there. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks and happy to discuss any questions you may have. Thank you.
People, do we have public comment on this? Oh, no, sorry, staff presentation.
Yeah, just really quickly, thanks for putting that on the screen. We just went over the location, so I won't belabor that. It's in Roslyn, and the site is within the Roslyn sector plan area. And the applicant Penzance does propose rezoning, phase development site plan, and major site plan amendment to terminate a previously approved but unbuilt phase development site plan and final site plan and replace it with a new development program. So in total, the proposed development will have 845 units, about almost 15,000 square feet of ground floor retail, and the residential units will be split into 3 towers, as you had just heard. So there will be a base contribution. The applicant has the option to do cash for units, but they've indicated it would be a cash contribution of over $3.6 million. And in terms of the earned density and the 7.5 million cash contribution, that is in accordance with the Roslyn sector plan, which does provide guidance to direct 30% of the value of community benefits towards affordable housing. And so this over 7.5 million cash contribution does meet the Roslyn sector plan goals, directing at least 30% of the community benefits value towards affordable housing. The plan does say, to the extent feasible, the county will prioritize use of funds within the Roslyn metro station area. And developers that do apply to our AHIP notice of funding availability do receive highest points in the geographic distribution section of the application. And just a little bit more context on the cash contribution. So if this contribution is leveraged at our average county AHIF per unit subsidy at 115,000 per unit, almost 65 offsite units affordable to households earning up to 60% of the area median income may be created at future affordable housing developments elsewhere in the county. In comparison, if on-site units were provided instead of the proposed cash contribution, only about 7 CAFs could likely have been negotiated. That's because the market rents in this submarket are some of the most expensive in Arlington, and these units will also have premium finishes and amenities. So as a result, there's a very large delta between the market and affordable rents, which leads to an average cost for purposes of calculating community benefits value of just over 1 million per affordable unit. And one of the last points I'll make on this is that the CAFs leveraged through our AHIF program would be available for 75 years or more, which is at least 2.5 times as long as the standard site plan term of 30 years. And below that is just a note that it will be the 7.5 million cash contribution will be received in installments prior to the first partial certificate of occupancy for when each residential tower is constructed. And in terms of racial equity, we did look at the 2023 American Community Survey that produces 5-year estimates. And for this census tract where the site plan is proposed, there is a proportionally smaller white and multiracial and combined populations than the county as a whole. And you can see the numbers there. There is a larger percentage of the Black population, 11% versus 9%, and Asian populations, 20% versus 11% than the county as a whole. There's also smaller Hispanic or Latino origin populations in the census tract where the proposed development is located compared to the county-wide population. So that's 10% versus 16% countywide. And the proposed cash contribution will benefit and enable additional income eligible families to live in Arlington. Again, if that 7.5 million cash contribution is leveraged at the county AHIF per unit subsidy of 115,000 per unit, about 65 offsite units affordable to households may be created elsewhere. In terms of who is burdened, the anticipated units created from the cash contribution to the AHIP program will be affordable up to 60% AMI and may be able to serve those with very low incomes. For example, 30% AMI, and you may not be eligible for housing grants or housing choice vouchers, which is a little bit unlike on-site CAF units generated from site plans, which are generally affordable at that 60% AMI level and not those lower affordability levels, for example. Missing from this opportunity will be CAF units serving households on site. However, to the extent feasible, the county will prioritize the use of these funds within the Roslyn Metro Station area. The staff recommendation is approval of the affordable housing program, which meets the county's affordable housing policies and includes that earned density contribution over 7.5 million. Thanks, and happy to be available for questions.
Do we have any public comment on this? No. Okay. All right, questions for the applicant or staff?
So I have a question. On the condos, is that the contribution is 651? Is that the number? The Northeast?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever consider like having an affordable dwelling unit within that?
Yeah, we talked quite a bit with the county staff about this, right? And what that composition looked like and what the community benefits package, both as a whole and specific to affordable housing was. And where we really came down was, I think, a lot of what Ms. Danowski said, which is that given the rents, given the costs in these areas, that it was a lot more practical to provide a cash contribution rather than to have, 1 or 2 units. The other issue I know that has come up is that when we have kind of caps kind of sprinkled in 1s and 2s, it makes the administration of that very, very difficult, both for the ownership, but also for the county in terms of monitoring and keeping up with a multitude of buildings with a couple of units rather than some larger buildings that have more. And it's an interesting contrast to the last project you all saw, right? In Charlington House, where the rents are far lower, so it made a lot more sense. You could get a large number of units based on the community benefits contribution versus.
So I'm just, as a homeownership advocate, always looking for affordable dwelling units, not CAFs, but for purchase. So I'm just wondering if that 651 amount could be designated towards home. I don't know, that's a thing for see people later on. Like, as we try to increase ownership, even though we can't get that unit in that building, can it be somehow used for some sort of home ownership grant?
I agree with that. I mean, if maybe with the ordinance, what we're doing with the ordinance thing, we can maybe do that as a recommendation or something like that. That would make sense. I wish Brian were here, but we may want to raise that.
I think though, just a quick question and then I guess response to the is the amenities in the condo building mostly geared toward like, is there no like children? Is it mostly be for like well,
So we've got that.
what sort of mix is there gonna be a playground or no, or is that like
That, I mean, it's gonna be for an established demographic.
yeah. So like this housing is the benefit, you know, yeah, we could provide like one, but I think the main benefit is pulling 73 households out of existing housing. That's the golden opportunity, you know, to either downsize or well, probably mostly downsizing, I assume households.
The other challenge that you would have to take into consideration is this is all for sale, so we won't own it ultimately. And then the association is gonna have a condo fee, which is typically like $1 per square foot. I'm sorry, 95, yeah, about $1 per square foot. So the condo fee and affordable dwelling and a condo product probably would be a real financial burden for an affordable dwelling unit, or like a townhome product where you don't have high condo fees associated with maintaining elevators and pools and parking garages would probably be a better application where you get a lot more bang for your buck and not burden the end purchaser.
Kia Nash though has home ownership. The thing is, this is a far different than Kia Nash. This is a very high end and it wouldn't be suitable. And I'll be a little biased here. I'm president of the homeowners association. So we, North Roslyn Civic Association, we fully support this. The investment coming into Arlington of this project is enormous. We who live there are living in a food desert. We only have one grocery store, and people tell me that you need more units for a Trader's or a Harris Teeter to come in. So we welcome the 845 tax-paying units to the county. We did have a minor little skirmish with a pedestrian bridge that was a little bit controversial. Our neighboring Civic Association, North Highland, wanted it there. There was a small aspect there. One of them had a traffic injury, thinking the pedestrian bridge was going to help that, and it isn't going to help that. The on-site configuration of what they're going to do at the boulevard will do more good to ameliorate any transportation problems. So it's a great project. We're eager, and I look out on those two decrepit buildings. So we're eager to see this develop. So
That's what I was wondering. There's existing buildings there, right?
There are
Are the
two,
ones across from the new
Hilton.
Hilton?
yes.
Oh, yeah, they stick out like a sore thumb. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I'm trying to get a picture. Okay,
They're notable for that,
yeah,
right?
okay.
So did the existing buildings have any housing in them?
No, their office.
Okay, okay.
And are they being still utilized as offices right now? Do they have tenants in there? And
Yes.
are you giving them enough time to transition to another building? And
There's been an existing site plan approved in place since 2012. So all the tenants are that will eventually. be
They've been
rezoned.
hanging on for 12
Wow.
years.
Yeah,
And what about how long would this project, 2012? How long will this project take to complete? Because they're already building another, I think it's across from Deloitte, another building. Is that your building? No?
Jefferson Apartment.
Yeah, that's the old
Yeah.
RCA building.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
JAG, Jefferson Apartment.
And it's going up pretty fast. I remember when they was starting and now it's like you see the whole framework.
You asked them, it's going very slow.
Oh, okay. Got it. But how long do you think?
This is a long build. I mean, I think it was what, 26 stories, 25, 23. Yeah. So it's gonna be a little over 3 years.
Oh, wow.
The goal is to do it all in one, right? So that's part of the reason for the timing.
And the mix of towers. There's like, one that building has average unit size like 890, the other one's like 760, and then we have very large, basically single family homes on one floor where the average unit size is 1,800. So we came up with a mix of home sizes so that we could build it all at once and kind of minimize the disturbance.
And he's right about the food desert. They only have that one Safeway. Do you have any prospects for, we want to potentially be a supermarket for that particular area?
We're proactively programming the retail to have black iron grease exhaust shafts in there, so they're going to be set up to handle a food use. So something that could be a small format grocer or potentially a restaurant or some other type of use. Ultimately bringing in 845 new residents into the community, our residents are going to want the same thing that the existing residents want. So we're definitely strongly encouraging food use here, and we think it would be a great location. And the Long Nice Boulevard is, got pretty gracious sidewalks where we're going to pre-program it for cafe seating.
It doesn't help the grocery, and you don't have enough space for a Trader Joe's, right?
Trader Joe's is about like a 12 to 15,000 square foot.
And how much do you have? 14?
We have 15,000 total in the current plan. If Trader Joe's came knocking and we were able to somehow lower them, we could always massage things around.
Okay.
What? What's the one Foggy Bottom?
Yeah, well, but still, I mean, I walked to the one up at 2 miles away, but it would be great. The bottom line is we need another grocery store there. Just have that.
The issue with that is that it's hard to get grocery because like in Ballston, you have a lot of feeder in versus you go to Georgetown, people are going up to Wisconsin, which is, you've got every single grocery store there. So it's like, you can't get people across the river. And then once you start going west, you got Balt. So it's like, you gotta, I think there is another site plan to put a small format grocery at the other old twin tower building that potentially.
Where the CBS was.
Yeah, up the streets.
Can I just address the construction concern? Having lived through it I've been there 8 years. The worst part of the construction's fine. It's the street work and those plates they put down. Those plates are deafening and stuff like that. So hopefully the RCA building had a terrible time because it took forever in the foundation. Hopefully where you guys are going to be, it's going to be easier to do the street work, especially since Ditmar already did a lot of it, stuff like that. But that's the worst part of living there is the street plates.
That used to be where the pawn shop place back in the days.
Yeah, no, that's the Continental Beer Garden. They're relocating that. They're gonna put another beer
A
garden.
long time there was a
Oh,
pawn.
the pawn shop, yeah,
And
right,
that's like in the.
right.
70s.
You're dating yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Before
it's,
people were born.
well, let me tell you, having looked at that view, the view of these 3 buildings, it's a great gateway to Northern Virginia coming up. The designs are spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to see 845 units coming in. That's a lot, and 75 calves off site is a lot. That's great to see. I just had a couple of questions. One is for staff. I was wondering, I noticed that you said that if it's like through the AHIP, you get that 75 years of affordability. Whereas, is it usually if it's on site, it's just going to be 30 years because that's the requirement? How does that work?
Yeah, so 30 years. So for example, in the Arlington house units, so
Yeah.
the people are over 30 years. That's really due to negotiations that occurred back in 2005 regarding the affordable housing ordinance, and that was then codified in state legislation, that 30-year term. So that is standard for site plan community affordable housing units, but with our AHIP program, we're able to, essentially when there is cash contributions or other cash received, leverage that and then have longer affordability periods. I am the county coordinator for Barcroft, and I will say that on that, we even got 99 years. So it's usually over 75 years now with units through our AHIP program.
Okay, but by state law, it's not, the requirement can't be more than 30 years for an on-site unit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for example, in the Shirley house or units that are contributed purely through the site plan.
Wonder if the Affordable Housing Working Group is talking about that.
I just made note of it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, obviously we like to see more, but I know they're, people aren't usually gonna do more than requirement. But I had a couple other questions. So one, what's the green building like option that you guys chose?
Sure. So in this case, we did not opt to do the green building incentive policy. Despite that, we're still achieving LEED Gold and significant energy efficiency.
Okay. And then my other question is, how many type A units?
Check. I think 2% is the
Yeah.
requirement.
So all the units are proactively retrofitted to have blocking installed so that if a resident needs to have accommodations made to add grab bars or additional supports, all the units will be set up in such a way that we could easily go in and modify them, removable fronts at the kitchen sinks and vanities, so they could be converted. So 2% are, full, ADA day one, and the other remaining are fully accessible, compatible.
Is that like type B? Is that what it's called? Or?
Type A and type B has to do with bathroom sizes, and
Oh.
very quickly going into a niche part of the thing, but a type B bathroom has a parallel approach to the tub, to the wash area, and has to do with the spacing of the way it's laid out, where type A could be a forward approach. It's nuanced.
And are any of the, never mind, there's no on-site affordable. So any other questions about or comments about?
Is this the one that has the units for sale, right?
One of the towers is planned to be for sale.
About the range of where you're looking at to sell, like is it gonna be, because she did mention and the affordable to ownership, is it in the affordable range or is this market rate?
Yeah, this will be market rate. Yeah. I mean, it's concrete high-rise construction. It's a very expensive construction product type. And we're planning to build like predominantly 2-bedroom units. So that.
For the condo,
Mostly
I
two.
just lost a sale. Looking for a 3.
I have to use. Talk to us afterwards.
Junior 2.
It'll be very nice.
Anything else?
Just a quick note, I think the AF contribution, that's pretty much what Arlington yearly, this FY 26 is for the entire, so I think that's just incredible how one site, 2.5 acres is giving. That's like 0.02% of the entire acreage is providing this much, so that's, I think, huge power of this 10 FAR on Metro. Awesome.
Your picture of Roslyn is so beautiful. That is not what it looks like.
Aaron, I will send you pictures. They're
Bluebird
great
sky.
pictures of Rockland.
It will, yeah.
Look at those clouds. Look
Uh,
at that beautiful river.
It never rains in a rendering.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else before we? Okay, can I have an emotion to recommend approval of the site plan?
I move, so move, to
Great.
approve it.
Second? Okay, let's do roll call. Commissioner Macbeth's not here. Commissioner Surface already seconded. Commissioner Wenger, yes. Commissioner Linick not here. Ben Trone already moved. Commissioner Schwartz.
Yes.
Commissioner McGilvery not here. Commissioner Blake. Coleman not here. Fiero not here. Commissioner Montgomery
Yes.
and Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe the next.
Oh, it does look comfortable.
It will look like that,
It look like that.
except that ugly building will be down.
Now,
I just ride my bicycle. It just doesn't.
So.
But this one will block a little bit.
This is from my window. That's the
Those two guys.
And that's the RCA building.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about where you going.
Team player face on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. Let me tell you, we're very enthusiastic I just. Construction is being done.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
I just hope that. I don't want them breaking ground. It's already.
Put it in.
It's sunset.
Oh, good for you for making it.
Yeah.
The sky.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, are you ready? Nice.
For the agenda, I think.
All right, everybody, we're gonna get started with Boston.
Right.
So,
It was fun.
But
Yeah.
everybody up here.
Hi, that was a good trip. Yeah. Yeah.
Honest, I mean, yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna start.
so the next item is Boston 1, another site plan. And online, we have Matthew Roberts, and I will pass it over to you for the applicant presentation first, and then I'll follow it up with a quick staff presentation.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody. Matt Roberts with the Hirschler Law Firm on behalf of the applicant. Have Ben Yance here with me on the remote cam, as well as John Costuris and Josh Bowden from Penzance with you there tonight. Give me 1 second to open this up. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Boston 1 apartments. We'll go through things a little quickly and leave enough time for questions and comments. Just very quickly to orient you all to the site. This is the 4601 North Fairfax Drive property located right at the intersection of Wakefield Street and North Fairfax Drive. You've probably passed this by any number of times. What we've got there today is an aging office building built under a prior site plan from the 1980s. And really, like so many other products, office products in Arlington and the DC region, we have a slow but sure trickle of the tenants leaving the building and soon to be faced with a vacant office building. And so in light of the county CMRI policy, as well as, housing goals, we felt it was a great time to pivot to something that's more economically viable. So what we're proposing for the site is a 328 unit multifamily building, which will be in a 7-story structure. Just to give you a quick sense of what's out there today, really what you have is a building that has, a lack of urban form, monolithic architecture, and really, the adjacent sidewalks lack real accessibility and safety. You can see that along all sides of the building, including along Wakefield Street, where we have an extraordinarily large curb cut leading into the office building. So the proposal now is to really redo this site in its entirety. One element I would note at the top that's very important for this building is we will be retaining the underground garage. And so, for the Boston sector plan in this area, it calls for the creation of a gateway experience, both through the architecture of the building as well as the landscaping. And so along Fairfax Drive in particular, the architecture for this building, really starts to complement what's happening on the opposite side of the street with the Boston Holiday Inn. And as you can see in this image, we'll also be redoing the Fairfax Drive shared use path in its entirety, creating a much more accessible and safe access way for pedestrians, bicyclists throughout the county. Just continuing along to the corner at Wakefield Street, you can see how the gateway architecture of the building continues all the way down along the facade, both at the peak of the building as well as at the base of the building, and also the creation of that shared use path and the gateway experience there through the landscaping strip. One element just to highlight from an accessibility perspective, it came up several times during SPRC, just to be very clear about where the building entrance is located. We've located this so that is sufficiently away from the corner and the pedestrian and bicycle traffic. That's really a great accessibility feature for the building. Folks who have disabilities or otherwise able to get here without having to interact with all that traffic at the corner. This is also a great spot for us as there will be on-street parking in this area, so it creates an opportunity for short-term drop-off. Just continuing around to the edge of the building, where we have sort of a lack of connection to the Wetland Park Trail on the west side of the building today, you can see how we'll be redoing the service drive in this area and ultimately creating additional accessibility in this area. And you can see as well how the building starts to frame itself in a much more urban residential form. Lots of balconies all the way across the entirety of the building, eyes on the street. A great thing to have where there's sort of a lack of that today with the existing office building. Similarly, at the ground floor, just to point it out, we will have patio level units. It's a great additional opportunity to complement the balconies above and provide safety and access, as well as direct interaction with what's going on at the pedestrian level. Switching over to the west side of the building up against the wetland park trail, we've done a lot of work on this side to really complement what's happening in the wetland park. We've added various biophilic elements to create direct connections out to the nature in this area. That's inclusive of all the units on this side of the building, the landscaping, as well as now a direct vine system on the building itself. Just in terms of the overall unit mix, this is going to be a mix of studios, one bedroom dens. Certain of those are going to be loft units and all the way up to 2-bedroom plus dens. Average unit size for this building is going to be approximately 937 square feet, but across that total, we'll end up with 328 units with the current mix. Just to talk very briefly about accessibility for the building, I've already mentioned the various improvements around this site, just in terms of everything that we'll be doing along Wakefield, North Fairfax Drive, and the service drive to improve the situation that's out there today. So again, removing that curb cut, completely redoing the shared use path, and things such as that. We are retaining, as I mentioned, the underground garage, but we will be having one primary structural modification to accommodate an ADA van. This is a building built before the Americans with Disabilities Act. So there are certain things that we will be doing to accommodate that within the structure to remain. Similarly, all public areas are going to meet ADA. As the question was asked in the prior application about accessible units, we will be providing 7 total type A units for this building, which is 2% of the total. Just to very quickly talk about the community benefits and, specific to this commission, focusing in on the affordable housing contribution. Again, always a big discussion with staff about what can be provided in terms of the on-site units versus a contribution. Ultimately, with staff, it was determined that a contribution was probably best for this site as well, given the total number of units that would have been provided, which was approximately 6. And so the overall contribution for this site between the base and the bonus density that needs to be earned will be roughly $3.2 million contribution, give or take. So with that, thank you all very much. Happy to have any discussion and questions that you may have.
Thanks for that. And I will just really quick provide a staff overview for this project. So Penzance proposes a major site plan amendment. It would demolish the existing office building and construct a 7-story residential building with 328 units, and the garage would be retained. So there are 2 components to the affordable housing program here. There is the base contribution, which is about $1.1 million, or approximately 8 on-site CAFs, 12 off-site nearby CAFs, or 16 off-site CAFs somewhere else in the county. As mentioned, the applicant will also contribute just over $2 million to AHIF to achieve the additional density above the base site plan limits. So similar to what my colleague Melissa Danowski was just saying in the previous presentation, the ability to leverage that $2 million at an average per unit subsidy of $115,000 per unit, the county would be able to create about 17 to 18 units at a new construction property, up to 60% AMI. And that's compared to what would have been able to be achieved on site, which was about 5 or 6 CAFs. So pretty big difference in those 2. And then also to Melissa's earlier point, CAFs leveraged through our typical AHIF program are affordable for much longer than 30 years. So 75 plus is the standard for the county. But also, as mentioned earlier, a lot of projects in our AHIF program now are doing 99 years. So it's almost 3 times as much for the affordability term. And then This was also touched on a little bit in the previous presentation, but from a compliance standpoint, having 6 or less units does get quite hard. Staff has noted that sites where the contribution would be 6 or less do not benefit from economies of scale in terms of administration and monitoring. This applies mostly to the time required per unit to accommodate ownership management changes, which do occur frequently. And while that isn't, while compliance factors may not be a determining reason alone, it is another thing to note, given the above considerations as well. So looking at racial equity very quickly, again, using the 2023 American Community Survey that produces 5-year estimates for the racial composition of census tracts. And the data indicates that the census tract where the site plan is proposed has a proportionally smaller white population than the county as a whole. There is a nearly identical proportion of the Black population as the county as a whole, and there is a larger percentage of the Asian and multi-racial and combined populations than the county as a whole. There is also a smaller Hispanic or Latino origin populations in this census tract. And so the proposed cash contribution will benefit and enable additional income eligible families to live in Arlington. If that just over $2 million is leveraged at the county AHIF per unit subsidy of $115,000 per unit, we'd be able to create 17 to 18 offsite units for households earning up to 60% AMI. In terms of who is burdened, the anticipated units created from cash contribution through the AHIF program will be affordable up to 60% AMI and may be able to serve those with very low incomes, such as up to 30% AMI, and who may not be eligible for housing grants or housing choice vouchers. So missing from this opportunity will be half units serving households on site. So basically, we know this information based on census tract data. What do we do? We have an opportunity to consider the proposed housing program. Staff does recommend approval of the affordable housing program, which has a base contribution as well as a bonus contribution of just over $2 million. So with that, I can turn it over to the question.
Just a quick question for Alex. Do you know the total 3.2 million contribution? Do you know what number of calves that would typically be equivalent to, like offsite?
I can do the math for you very quickly.
Nice. Thank you. What's the cost usually?
It's 115,000 a unit is what our new construction units are typically the subsidy that the county puts in. So if you did 3.2 million, that flat number, it would be 27.8 units. So about 28 units.
Yeah, and then also, glad to see that this office building is being reused, and not having to redo the garage is good for the environment as well as savings, and contribution to the AHIF. I was also just curious about the bike lane, because I know there's a really nice protected bike lane at the Marymount building right next to it. Is that going to continue on right to the Custis Trail with the protected bike lane? What is that going to look like?
As we get to this. No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
sure. So the current plan right now is to basically keep the shared use path in its basic configuration and move the trees out to Fairfax Drive to provide protection. We had a lot of discussion during SPRC about, is there enough space in that area for a protected bike lane, on the trail network today. Given the garage constraints, we really only have 17 feet in that area from the curb line up to the garage. And so what we've done is we've maximized the size of the shared use path at 12 feet in order to give ourselves the minimum, planting strip there of 5 feet. So the other reality here is that you've got what I understand to be a VDOT street, this segment of Fairfax being governed by VDOT. And so to continue that protected bike lane on the Marymount side would require further coordination. So the current plan is to keep the shared use path in roughly the same shape that it's in today with commingling. But ultimately that was determined, through a conversation with staff.
Our block is as you're entering the highway, so you kind of want to start to get them away from the main road and onto the other side of the trees. So you're kind of creating this barrier for just safety.
What about height? How come I didn't go a taller building? Because the building next to it is taller than the one that you're proposing. How come y'all didn't go higher?
The construction type, it's 2 levels of concrete and then 5 levels of wood. And the tallest you can go with the stick framing is 5 stories.
There's a couple other considerations there too. One is the Ballston sector plan calls for tapering of heights away from Metro. And so one consideration was, how do we achieve that when you've got, I believe, Marymount at 9 stories, as well as, a current building of 12 stories. And candidly, we didn't come to the decision to scrape the tower lightly. Even before we filed a conceptual plan with the county, there was a lot of discussion about, do we keep the tower? How does that lay out for residential units? What happens if we were to rebuild a taller tower? And as John was saying, you get into the issues of construction type and what that's going to cost. Where that comes into play, from the opportunity to deliver on housing is if the rents can't support the construction, we can't get a loan on the property and we can't deliver on the housing. And so ultimately, as we talked through at SPRC, the idea became we have a shared goal with the county of, delivering something here in line with the CMRI policy, getting rid of a building that's not going to have tenants in it for office. And so, between all those factors, that's how we came up with not going taller.
Just to follow up, if there was no I know that I think the max height was 16 stories with taper, is this, with it, if there was no, Roslyn, 30 stories tall, would this still be potentially looking different on building that with the existing garage, or would that still be not feasible if the garage can't support that weight, or would?
That's the big factor here is once you have a taller structure, you're going concrete. Now you have multiple structural modifications to the garage. That's, a cost factor. It adds into the rent. And ultimately what we found for this segment of the county was the rents in that scenario are unlikely to be supported. And, we could promise the world, but not deliver on it. And that doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm a little confused over the office building. One of my doctors is in the neighboring office building, a much taller building, and it looks to be fully occupied. Are you saying that all the offices are going to be vacated there and it's all going to be rental housing?
Yes, we currently have about 60% of our buildings filled with tenants, and of
Okay.
that, about,
So do you already own the building here?
yes.
Okay, do you own the other building?
No.
So it's just this building is the one that's right next to as you're entering this,
Right.
Yeah.
not the other building.
It's right next to the
Okay.
Beaver Pond.
Correctly. This is directly at the corner of Wakefield and Fairfax Drive.
Yeah. What else is planned?
It's right by the trail, yes.
What else is planned for the area? I know that the Holiday Inn's on the other side. That's supposed to be developed, right?
Yes.
Housing.
Yes.
Are you developing it?
That was,
I think we saw that.
It's actually Snell.
that was 2 applicants ago.
Oh, okay.
We're the last 2 there.
I mean, it makes sense. That getting the housing built is fine. It's an interesting area. I go by it on I-66, that bird sanctuary or whatever it is. I don't know if I would like to live over a swamp if you have asthma or something like that.
It's been really redone. It's
No,
not,
it's redone, but if you have allergies or whatever, but it's.
We have a condo for you.
It's a great design, but it's, and what you did with the design with all the moss work is kind of interesting.
not allergy attack.
And
Yeah,
do you have retail? I'm sorry, did I hear you say you have retail? No retail?
No, there's no retail called for. Wakefield Street has a designation in the Arlington retail plan as a green street, which is basically retail equivalents such as lobby space or the activated patios like we have. The retail action plan actually does not continue any designations on the western side of Fairfax Drive. So literally stops at Marymount.
one of the heat pumps on the roof, are they gonna be curtain around it? There will be a curtain because in the picture I saw there was no curtain. You just could see the.
There's zoning, site plan requirements.
So the picture up there was no curtain around them. You just saw the heat pumps. They will be covered.
Yes.
They're on screen.
And yeah, speaking of heat pumps, in terms of the green building policy, you said this is LEED Gold.
Gold, and we're earning summer density. So we're actually.
Yeah, so we'll be hitting the 0.25 level as well as the prerequisites, bird-friendly glass, dark sky lighting, things such as that.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then I saw all the biophilia that looks really nice. And is it, and I should have asked the others, but is it gonna be like, what's the electric versus gas sort of balance? Is it
Electric.
all electric? Okay, awesome. And it has like EV chargers and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're actually exceeding the EV charging here. The baseline county requirement on day one is 4%, we'll be at 6%. And the EV ready percentage from the county's perspective is 15%, and we're going to be at 23. So we're exceeding on all fronts.
Yeah, great to hear it's all electric, yeah.
Yeah, just, I think, don't know the status, but the potential for a new metro entrance could help make this again more feasible and provide more walk share to, yeah, early, not like,
Yeah, I used to live
No, no.
in Ava, Boston.
but the new one's gonna be, yeah, it's the new entrance, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be significantly closer. We're about, I think, a quarter mile from the current entrance, and we'll be within 1,000 feet, if I'm not mistaken, more or less, from the new entrance.
Okay, any other comments? Yeah, great. I mean, it seems like a good project and why don't we do before I say that, why don't we do our roll call? Do we have a motion to recommend approval? Okay, second. Okay. Commissioner Surface,
Yes.
Commissioner Wanger, yes. Commissioner Ventrone,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz already moved, Commissioner Blake seconded, and Commissioner Montgomery
Yes.
and Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ben.
Why don't we take a 5-minute break back at 8:20?
Not, wait, which one?
Didn't-
I used to be up way high.
Okay.
Oh, down in.
I'll be a fire station.
Yep, yep.
Sorry to
Saw that.
George Mason, that's like right by my house.
DCSC.
Thanks ever for being back on time. I think we're gonna move to the Destination 2027 presentation.
Yes, so tonight Robert Sharp is here and he will give a presentation on Destination 2027.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Again, my name is Robert Sharp. I'm the Acting Division Director for Public Health here in Arlington. I want to start by thanking all the Housing Commission members for volunteering their time and energy in the service of the community. And so I do have a short update, and I'll keep this short because I've been seeing the equity questions in action. I've been seeing this thoughtful conversation. I'm not sure this commission needs a primer on equity, but hopefully the public health stuff will be of interest. So let me jump in. I want to start with a little bit of background about public health. Public health is population focused. That means that think of Arlington County as the patient as opposed to, sort of the doctor-patient primary care. So, what does that mean being population focused? How do we promote and protect the health of all people? Some examples: we inspect restaurants to ensure food safety and prevent the spread of foodborne disease. We track disease outbreaks and vaccinate children to prevent the spread of communicable disease. And we treat sexually transmitted infections and conduct contact tracing with potentially infected partners. So those are just some examples of how we practice population-focused public health here in Arlington. We've been around, the public health department has been around for 100 years. We got our start in the 1920s with a local food code and plumbing code. Believe it or not, back then, Arlington County had no running water. Most homes had wells for drinking water and outhouses for bathrooms, which can create some sanitation challenges. Clean water is a very important community condition. When you provide clean water to an entire population, you improve health outcomes. Housing, similarly, is a very important community condition. As everyone here knows, affordable housing is a challenge in Arlington. So I'm going to see if I can hopefully pull slides up, and I only have, I think, 4. So again, I'm going to be respectful of your time. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right, so this is just, pictures worth 1,000 words. Destination 2027 was started by our former health director, Ruben Varghese, and the goal was achieving health equity by 2027. You can see a map on the right, which has gotten a lot of people, you've probably seen already. The short version is there's a decade of difference depending on where you live in Arlington County. Arlington is a great place to live, work, and play. If you look at national rankings, we often come up at, most educated, fittest, income, and so on, all good things. But when you drill down and disaggregate data, you see that not everyone is thriving in the Arlington community, which is why disaggregated data is so important. And health is more than just, again, access to primary care. It's housing, it's the economy, it's jobs, it's education, it's socialization, it's access to recreation and nature. So I'm going to go through the next slide. And this is one of the updates. If you look at the, actually, no, this is from the original report. You can see on the left, life expectancy at birth by census tract, and on the right, percentage of children living below poverty level. So there's a correlation there, obviously. The next slide is going to be interesting. Initial COVID cases through June 2020 is on the left. And if you look at life expectancy at birth on the right, you see there's a lot of overlap. And of course, the reason is that, who gets to work from home, who has the luxury of working from home, who has the luxury of social distancing, and who might be living in, more, say, cramped housing situations with hourly wage jobs where they have to go to work or they just don't get paid and can't pay the rent. So again, a lot of overlap there between COVID cases early on in the pandemic and life expectancy. We had a lot of momentum pre-COVID. We were doing presentations to housing commissions. Perhaps Ruben Varghese did one with all the commissions. I don't know if we were able to get to you because eventually our progress was stalled with the COVID pandemic. But before then, we were able to get help get an equity resolution passed, which is still being used, the questions introduced to policymaking, and a new chief race and equity officer for Arlington County. So a lot of progress. COVID happened, and we had to really pivot and focus on mass vaccination. What I want to share, and this is my final slide, is health equity. There's a definition on the right. Health equity exists when everyone has access to the community conditions needed for optimal well-being. Now you can strike the word health and equity. If you have those community conditions, health will naturally follow. I know you've seen the questions because I've saw them used earlier today. I need to just move something so I can read it. Who benefits? Who is? I have a technical difficulty here, so I'm going to stop sharing. But you've seen the questions because I've seen them put to use earlier today. And I just lost my place. Please bear with me. Who benefits? Who is burdened? Who is missing? How do you know? So some updates since then. We did an update in December of 2024. It was one of the last acts of the former health director. It's online if you're curious. And what we found is that in some cases, post-COVID disparities have actually gotten worse in Arlington. We think that the difference in lifespan is probably 11 years at this point. There's a census track lag, but we have seen that there are changes in teen births, children in poverty, and I actually expect disparities to get worse. There's a lot of bad things happening at the federal level. We have one of the largest measles outbreaks underway in 33 years. Measles was eradicated 25 years ago. Some good news for you, Arlington County has a very high vaccination rate. We're well over the 95% threshold, which provides community protection. And Arlington residents, again, this is where the high education helps, but high vaccination rate. So I want to close because Ruben has retired. Destination 2027 has disbanded. Normally, I would spend more time on the equity questions and the importance of disaggregated data, but I see you're already applying them. I see you're doing really great work. I really appreciate these thoughtful conversations you're having. So, I think my big takeaway is keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing this great work that you're doing. Data can be a challenge in Arlington County, so ask for that data when you don't see it. The big takeaway for Destination 2027 is policymakers, whether it's the corporate sector, the public sector, policymakers on the commission, we all have the ability to influence community conditions. That's my challenge to everyone, which you're already doing. So again, I'll keep it short. I don't want to ramble on since you're already doing great work, but any questions for me about public health or Destination 2027?
So you said it disbanded, so there's no additional goals for the next 2 years. Is that right?
Well, that's not entirely true because we're still using the equity questions in Arlington County policymaking. County Manager Mark Schwartz continues to reference the equity resolution. We haven't given up on equity in Arlington County Department of Human Services. It's still a top priority for us, but we lost our champion when we lost our health director. So we're in the process of hiring a new health director. And it's a community mapping process that we do as part of public health every couple of years. So we'll be doing it again. And I don't know what it'll look like because it's going to really rely on who the new health director is and what they want to bring to the table, what they want to focus on. But no, equity, it's a never-ending battle, if you will. And Arlington County is still committed to it. We don't want to give up. Especially during these difficult times. So yeah, I shouldn't have used that term disbanded. So it's, the equity resolution, again, it still stands, equity question still in use. Human Services very much focused on equity, as is county government. So looking forward to hiring a new health director and orienting them and seeing, if they can help take it to the next level.
Thanks. And then are you guys having a separate plan for the loss of Medicaid funding and some of the changes that are happening around the Affordable Care Act with the reconciliation bill and the program integrity rule and things like that?
Yeah, great questions. We're really worried about that. Fortunately, most of our funding is local. We actually get very little federal funding in the grand scheme of things. And all of our programs have a great public sector return on investment, something like family planning. I mean, what is the cost of birth control pills versus the cost of 12 years of Arlington County Public Schools. Something like immunizations is a vaccine, is dirt cheap, compared to, a healthcare complication. So I think we'll prevail there. We outsourced maternity to VHC Health about a year ago. And one of the reasons we were able to do that is because there was a change in Medicaid that expanded coverage for persons without documentation to include prenatal care. So these were now paying customers. If that goes away, we're prepared to take maternity back.
That's great.
We legally serve persons without documentation, family planning, immunizations, women, infants, and children. So we do a lot in the community. It's all legal. We're not breaking any rules. We hope that stays in place. My understanding of the Medicaid changes is that, they're staggered. They're not going to happen in real time, but still there's some scary stuff we're hearing about. And the reality is, there's a healthcare crisis nationwide, and we have the Arlington Free Clinic. We have a federally qualified health center, neighborhood health. But there's still an unmet need. So there's more to do. But again, this is a great community. We've got, volunteers here at the Housing Commission. The county board is very much on board with equity and human services. So I think we're about as good a position as we're going to be given these times.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's nice. Sorry. Yeah.
I know I had a question. Isn't Arlington one of the healthiest communities? I mean, they put us in the city category, or are those just surveys that are just sort of fluff?
No, they change the criteria a little bit every year. I think it's the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that typically does that, and Arlington has ranked tops many years. So it's a very healthy community. I mean, you can see it if you go on the bike trails. They're busy. So definitely very healthy, but that again, that doesn't apply to everyone, because who has the luxury of going to a gym or affording Gold's Gym? Not everyone. There are people in Arlington that have, are working 2 jobs just to pay rent, and training for the Marine Corps Marathon is not an option for them.
What are we doing for the elderly and all on the health side? Is that in your purview, or?
Only in so much as it impacts the population, but we do have within the Department of Human Services an Aging Disability Services, and there are so many great locally funded programs that people don't necessarily know about. We have, for example, a nursing case management program here in Arlington County that helps people age in place on their terms as long as possible, by coming into the homes, people who need help with daily activities of daily living. We're saving the state a small fortune in Medicaid by preventing people from going to nursing homes.
Right. Well, the reason why I'm saying it, you probably already read about Culpeper Gardens. They're losing their assisted housing facility, and that was 100 units that was financed by HUD. And it was assisted living. These are elderly that need help with their daily living requirements. The county, my understanding, the county was very supportive and funded it, but they still didn't have enough money. So all of those people have to be relocated, and those units will be re-rented out to the well elderly. So it's really a big problem.
Yeah, that wasn't on my radar. That's a shame, because that moving that population at that age is going to be very traumatic.
That's why I wanted to mention it, because I commend your professionalism and your subject matter stuff. You may want to look at that also. But the county was not at fault. The county supported it, and it's just they just didn't have the resources to do a fully assisted living. So.
Kellen, okay, so Kellen, our chair, is not here today, but he had several questions that he wanted me to ask on his behalf. Well, first, the comment just from me is that it's great to hear that you do serve undocumented residents. So Kellen, his first question is, what is the county doing to address these disparities?
Well, I mean, I think I gave some examples that, you saw the equity questions in action earlier today. The department, we actually have the poverty in Arlington is interesting because you know, what might seem like a very high salary, say in the Midwest, you know, you're barely getting by in Arlington County. And a lot of the, you know, traditional public assistance programs, food stamps, things like that, housing choice voucher, either the eligibility requirements don't work in Arlington or the resources are limited. So, you know, what Arlington County does is we have locally funded housing grants, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. We provide funding to the Arlington Food Assistance Center because it's almost impossible to live in Arlington and qualify for food stamps. You know, I think the number has been around 5,000 throughout my 20-year career. So we're doing a lot locally. You know, again, we haven't given up on equity. DHS Director Anita Friedman is a big champion of race-centered equity, just because, you know, some of us are born with privilege and some of us, you know, don't have those same opportunities. And, you know, one of the challenges moving forward is apparently a lot of people are really happy with their privilege and don't want to necessarily share it with others. So, you know, the county is doing a lot. You know, I've worked with our state legislators on different topics, and there I would consider them all to be really good on equity and human services as well.
Thanks. Great. And then, yeah, Kellen was also asking what does outreach to the impacted communities look like? How are they involved in deciding what interventions should be made?
Well, yeah, obviously a two-way dialogue is ideal as opposed to sort of a top-down approach. This is what you need. One of the things we're doing post-COVID is we're ramping up community outreach. You know, you saw maps earlier of zip codes with disparities. We're going to those zip codes and we're offering services. And one of the things we're going to do, which is a pivot for us, is we traditionally have not done vitals in the community like blood pressure, diabetes testing. And the reason for that is there's a philosophy of a decision to test is a decision to test is a decision to treat, and we don't have primary care in our back pocket. So that's made some people nervous. But you know, what the new philosophy is that a decision to test is a decision to think. Like there are resources we can refer people, and I think that if we did vitals in the community, it's a way to engage people. Nursing is one of the most trusted professions, and so we're building sort of a platform, Ask a Nurse, to bring people in and offer free blood pressure readings, free Narcan, free diabetes testing, free HIV testing, so that we can let people know if they have one of these conditions, you know, point them in the right direction for treatment. And, you know, even if I know healthcare is a challenge, but if I had high blood pressure, I would want someone to tell me, hey, you know, you might want to change your diet, Robert. You might want to quit smoking. You know, there are lifestyle changes that people can make. So when we are going out in the community, we are listening as well to hear what their challenges are, because we want to build trust. And some of that is follow up on COVID. You know, we want to be trusted agents in the community. So if there is another pandemic, and I think we have 95 years for the next big one, they tend to be every 100 years, and we say, hey, get this vaccine, we want people to say, yeah, I trust you, I'll get that vaccine.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, sorry, several questions here, but is CPHD and other departments working with the public health department to make progress on these goals?
I mean, I would think so. I mean, the questions that we heard earlier were introduced by Destination 2027. They were put in part into the equity resolution, and they're being put in practice here and now. We work with CPHD on other issues, sort of mundane. It's, you know, probably boring for this group, but, you know, restaurant inspections for new buildings, you know, swimming pool licensing, stuff like that. So yeah, we work closely with CPHD.
Great. Last question is, where does the county expect to be in 2027, given that we have fallen further behind these disparities?
Yeah, it's, you know, again, it's an open-ended struggle. You know, we're never going to have, you know, perfection where everyone has access to the same opportunities and resources. But to the extent we can, you know, and the Housing Commission is a good example. You know, you have influence. I'm seeing it in action this evening. You have the ability to prioritize equity in what you approve and what you ask of developers. So I do worry that the nation as a whole is going to be falling backwards. Again, Arlington County, very high vaccination rate, a lot of resources. I think we're in a better place than most. But I mean, to be honest, I am worried. But I think we're going to probably get through this better than a lot of other communities.
Thank you. And then the final, it's not a question, but just Kellen wants to remind the commissioners that addressing neighborhood disparities because of historic segregation is a key part of affirmatively furthering fair housing. So I think he's just trying to connect, like, the public health disparities is connected to, the type of housing that people have historically had access to based on race. So it's just an important part of fair.
That is extremely well documented.
Yeah, if I could go back to my earlier example of plumbing when Arlington County had outhouses and wells. If you look at a neighborhood, and I'm sure everyone here knows different Arlington County neighborhoods, but Halls Hill, Highview Park, very small, non-conforming lots. You got the well close to your outhouse. That's obviously a problem. And, if you haven't seen this, you should check it out. If you go down Culpeper Street, where Heidelberg Bakery starts, there's a cinder block wall that dates from the segregation days in Arlington County. It still stands. And even as late as, I think, the 1960s, the community that lived there, they had to the Black community had to give birth in their homes because the hospital would not admit them. So we've come a long way. But yeah, it's really important to keep our focus and not give up.
Any other questions? Yeah, thank you, Robert, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you again, and keep up the great work. I'm really impressed with the thoughtful discussion I've seen this evening. I hope I don't get everyone to bed too late, but thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The next thing is development updates.
So I do a lot of reading here for a second. So there's 3 development updates. There's one on Crystal Houses, there's one on Barcroft, and there's one on Goodwill. So I'll just go through those one at a time. So starting with Crystal Houses. So as a reminder, Crystal House 3 project is a hybrid 9%, 4% LIHTC project, and it received 2 AHIF allocations so far to date. So it received just over 12 million for the Crystal House 3 9% project in March 2024, and then just under 30 million for the Crystal House 3 4% project in October of 2024. So since that time, a combination of private market changes, particularly on the equity pricing side, negatively affected the affordable housing market and this project in particular. Combined with the deal structuring changes, the Crystal House 3 4% project is seeing an additional gap of $10 million in the project. So True Ground has been pursuing all available financing options as well as alternative financing structures and equity providers to optimize available sources and reduce that gap to as little as possible. While they have agreed to continue pursuing those strategies, closing on the project must still happen by the end of August to close on the tax exempt bonds before the allocation deadline comes up, and it would avoid another possible repricing of equity, which could make even a bigger gap possibly. So as a result, staff really must bring forward the final AHIF loan documents for county board consideration in July. So in light of the gap and the timing constraints, staff is working on a recommendation as part of the July county board item to reallocate up to $10.4 million of AHIF from the Crystal House 6 phase to Crystal House 3. Part of this is Crystal House 6 also was not awarded 9% competitive credits, so it will be going through that process again in the year. So more time is kind of needed to shore up Crystal House 6. In the meantime, the staff recommendation is to go ahead and fill that gap in Crystal House 4 with that money from some of that money from Crystal House 6. So that is one item that will be on the county board agenda in July. Any questions on that before I go to the other 2?
Alice, is that one on the last block here?
Where's that?
Where's that other?
Crystal House.
It's the last 2.
It's the last 2.
Last one on the first page?
Yeah, it's the last 2. So the second to last one is the 9%
Okay.
deal, and the last one is the 4% deal, but they're combined. It's one development, So there's also a Barcroft update. So the Barcroft MFDP documented a variety of Jair Lynch Real Estate Partners commitments to affordable housing and the overall development plan for the 68-acre property, which will be incrementally delivered through approximately 12 neighborhoods form-based code use permit applications. While the MFDP captures the sentiment of these commitments, additional steps are necessary to regulate, enforce, and monitor the commitments with future neighborhood form-based code use permits. So a phased development use permit tool is recommended to regulate and enforce these elements, which will be shared, phased, and tracked across the 20 different use permits. To enable a PDUP tool, phased development use permit tool, amendments to the neighborhoods form-based code are proposed to update the administration regulations and introduce flexibility for the shared and incremental delivery of street improvements and affordable housing under a PDUP application. There's also a use permit application that will be going forward for the Penske site. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but with Barcroft site, but it's kind of the upper right corner. And that development proposal includes a 7-story mixed-use building with 264 units, ground floor retail, delivery of a mini park. So really on the Barcroft, it's there's this phased development for the use permits to kind of bring all 20 under the same document. And then there's also a new use permit going. So those are the actions happening at Barcroft. Any questions on that? And
A quick question about the Crystal House. I was just
Yeah,
reading this. So it looks like Crystal House 3 is family, and then Crystal House 6 is seniors, and that's the one that's like up in the air.
so, yeah, so Crystal House 3 is it's a massive building and thus the large AHIF requests. And yes, it has a large portion of family size units, and Crystal House 6 was the senior development, but Crystal House 6 did not win those 9% credits this round, and it's a once a year application. So they will be reapplying for that, but it's basically unfunded other than the AHIF right now because there aren't the tax credits in it. There aren't these others, smaller sources. So yeah.
So the first senior development in 20 years is being delayed.
So it did not win tax credits, and hopefully it's a 1-year delay and is able to secure tax credits next year. But yes.
I did see that, this is Alice, that although there's lots of cuts in the bill that just passed, they are increasing the LIHTC tax credits. So maybe they'll be, at least not cutting it, maybe increasing a little bit. How many are giving out?
Yeah, we haven't fully analyzed that bill as staff yet. There are a few trade-offs, though. We also are worried that equity pricing might decrease, so we're not really sure how it will shake out actually, but yes, you are right about that. However, there are other changes like the 50% test that might throw some of the financing mechanics off, and we might not see the same equity pricing on the investor side. So there is some positive updates there, but there's also very large looming questions as well, I think.
What's equity pricing?
So basically, when you win tax credits, you're basically you're selling those tax credits off, basically, and you get a return on the dollar. And you would think it might be $1 for $1. It's not. You usually get, well, in Arlington, it's about $1 worth, about 91, 92 cents. But these LIHTC deals, 30, 40, 50% of the capital stack is from the LIHTC dollars. So if you lose a couple cents on every dollar, does have a big effect, and that thus the opening of a $10 million gap. So equity pricing is super important, and we don't want it to go down. But that is the reason that the gap opened here, the equity pricing changed. Yeah.
Just about the Barcroft one, it sounds like more than anything, that's just administrative in a way, bringing it under the one umbrella, right?
Largely, yes. That's the first part I was talking about. Yeah, it's the PDUP phase development use permit application, which was actually, they just kind of created that. Yeah, I think that was established in April of this year. And so, yeah, it's gonna basically, instead of having 20 different, use permits, it's gonna kind of consolidate those. And then last update on Goodwill. You'll also see an item on the July County Board meeting for Goodwill. If you remember in May, you heard the item for home loan allocations, AHIF allocations, the home loan closing documents, and the escrow and unwind agreement. You didn't hear those last two, but they were approved by the county board in May. Those documents are actually going back to the county board. There's some slight revisions. The additional parties in the financing stack had some requests to revise some of the home loan documents. So those documents are going back in July, but we have a foot on the gas after that to continue on with the early ground lease closing. So that is now slated for a late July, early August closing to get those home funds out the door. And so those are the three main development updates. And then I can also, I don't think there's any meetings that we need one for, and only one. Yeah, I guess there aren't any new ones on the calendar. Which makes sense with the August recess coming. But yeah, as more SPRCs put on the calendar, I will send them out.
Thank you. Okay, so before we do the subcommittee reports, just like announcements, I guess, just as Alice was saying, I don't know if everyone's familiar with what happened with EHO, Missing Middle. Basically, there was this lawsuit that, and maybe Alice can explain it better, but it basically went up to the Virginia Court of Appeal and they said this lawsuit is no good. They just threw it out, basically. So now the county technically could continue with Missing Middle and offering permits, but they haven't really moved forward on it yet. They're kind of waiting to see if it's, I think they appealed it back up to the same court and they're trying to see if they'll like put a stay on it until it goes up even farther. It doesn't seem that likely that they'll do that.
There's a
yeah,
little
do you want to go ahead?
update. So
Yeah.
today is Thursday. I think on Monday or Tuesday, there was yet another hearing. And I guess part of the appeal that the plaintiffs did was asking them to reconsider the fact that they threw it out, and they reconsidered it and took it back. So yet again, now we're like in another limbo.
So they didn't throw it out. They decided to change it.
Now it's unthrown out. It's like
Really?
crazy.
Are the same court?
Yeah, 3-panel judge is an appellate court. So I don't know if, the only thing I know now is that they're looking at it one more time because of that. So we'll hear that soon. They're still putting in the request for a stay, which the county is obviously opposing. And then we just have to wait and see, I think at this point, what happens next. The plaintiffs have already said if they don't succeed again, they plan to take it to the Virginia Supreme Court, which apparently is like paperwork. You just have to submit something. It's not expensive. So of course they would, continue. But then if it gets up there, the Virginia Supreme Court, like our US one, has a choice. They either take a case or they just send it back. So we have to wait for a few things on this level, and then they're likely to go to that level. And then we see if it's even taken at that level. I don't know if do you have anything else? It's very hard to follow.
On that right now.
Yeah.
What is their standing? What are?
Yeah, the standing was what they threw it out on.
That's what they threw it
Yeah,
out.
that makes sense.
Yeah, well, what happened, people who were in the case or following the case in the beginning, advocates like us, we didn't think they had standing because it was 9 individuals with homes, but nothing had happened yet. Like there's
Right.
no, what do you call damage done to anyone yet. So it's like theoretical.
Right.
So like, well, how can you complain and sue and stop a program and nothing has
Hasn't
occurred,
started.
right? So that was the first thing. But what happened was that's not why the appellate court, they didn't take that as their reason for rejecting standing. They rejected it because, and this is where I start losing it, but what happened was there were a couple other permit holders, Wilson Ventures was one of them, and a couple other ones that did their own legal stuff. But Wilson tried to intervene during the initial case. They were like, why can't we get in with the, I guess, the county, because they didn't want the permits to stop either. They already owned the property. Some of them had already demolished the building. They were half built, and then boom, they had to stay. They literally couldn't even finish their buildings. So that's it. So they were either going to sue the county because they wanted to finish, or they wanted to get in on this lawsuit with the county to oppose the plaintiffs. So that's who ended up happening at this appellate court level. And so then those 3 judges last week before this other thing, they said, and this is me interpreting, so I don't have this exactly right because I'm not a lawyer, but they said that those guys should have been allowed in because they have more standing than someone with just a beef about the process. And then they were saying, like, now it's not known who has standing and how do you have enough people represented in your lawsuit? Like anybody who owns a home now, do we all belong in there? Like, is it only people with a permit? Is it only people who sued with a permit? Like, so there's a lot of unknowns. So that's what the plaintiffs complain about, that's the reason they threw out the standing, and then they reconsider and they're opening it back up. I can't tell you anything more than that. It's hard to track.
Thanks for the explanation.
Oh my God. But I do think, in the coming weeks or a couple of months, one way or the other, it's either gonna finish up here or that stuff will stop and it'll go up. So I think we'll know something more fairly soon, but.
Okay.
I just say one more thing, there's a group, like, because when I used to work at Alliance for Housing Solutions, that's the group that absorbed Navajo, Arlington, so I just became part of them. But when we were AHS, we had a whole website about missing middle. We had it was called missingmiddlearlington.net, and now it's getting transferred because I went that way. We just organized the advocates who wanted to see this happen into its own, like, just community group. And it's called Arlington Win. So it's arlingtonwins.org, and it means Arlingtonians for welcoming and inclusive neighborhoods. So if you want, I can give you that, or you can get on there and get on the listserv, and we're updating people. There are some lawyers who help interpret it, and we get it out to people to kind of keep folks aware of what's going on. So if you have an interest, there is a way to kind of roughly keep track of this thing. So happy to put anybody in touch with that group if you're interested.
Thanks, Alice. Okay, great. So committee updates, subcommittee updates. Brian also sent an update from the Affordable Housing Ordinance Working Group. Okay, he said, here are the options for updating the cash contribution component of the Affordable Housing Ordinance. 1, maintaining the current structure of the formula, which is the tiered structure that includes the first 1.0 FAR, increase by a certain percentage uniformly across all tiers, or redesign the formula so that it aligns with the formula for on-site units. I'm not sure what the formula for on-site units is, but maybe it's different across different tiers of the size of the building. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, it's also a little different because the first 1.0 FAR is excluded for on-site units. So the numbers are different. But yeah, it's basically right now we know that the values are equal, but it's recalibrated like that way, or do you recalibrate it the other way? I think the group knows which way they're moving in generally, but there are some options on do you bring the cash up to what you think the units cost now? Yeah, there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered on next Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and just, yeah, there's different options on the contribution itself, but we're also looking at different offset options. So like, let's say we bump up the contribution for the first, each different tier is that there's different options we can do to compensate. So for example, we're looking at like a pilot program to have guaranteed approval time, or different other funds or tax structures to help make things go faster, smoother. Also looking at, there was another proposal out to changing perhaps to go like, 80%, I mean, there's a lot of different, it's just a matter of like different trade-offs of what's possible and how much money we can squeeze out to get more funding, because you tweak the formula, it has a lot of different effects. So it's just looking at all the different options.
Thanks, Jason. Another thing he said is, additionally, we will consider what approach is best for commercial development. Either maintain the structure and contribution rates, or maintain the structure with increased contribution rate. That's the update from Brian. Any other updates from that group?
We're meeting next week.
Meeting next Tuesday. Okay, thanks. And then I can do the community engagement task force, also meeting next week on Wednesday. So I'll try to go through this quickly because there's some stuff here, but we've been doing some listening sessions and tabling at different like food distributions, like listening at affordable housing complexes. We're still working hard on trying to collect more responses to our survey. It's been a little difficult. But we did, in the process, listening at 2 AHC properties last week, but Gates of Boston and the Shelton. Alice was there with me at the Shelton. And we did hear about some, like in the process, we heard about some issues with maintenance and the management. And also Kellen, I think, has been periodically meeting with this group of advocates with AHC leadership about the Serrano ever since that whole issue happened a few years ago. And there's a Serrano report. There's been ongoing issues. And so they're still trying to put pressure on AHC to do whatever they can. It sounds like AHC really just sees it now as a money sink, because they feel, it's such an old building that they do not want to invest, or maybe they don't have the money to invest more into fixing it up or replacing the elevators, which have been having like problems getting stuck. So like they basically are focused on trying to get funding to be able to redevelop the Serrano. But that has to either come from Amazon, who's reluctant, or the county by building a fire station there. So they're really working on that, but it's unclear, like if that doesn't work, then they may have to just sell the property, and I don't know what'll happen then. But so it's a challenge overall, and I think we need to stay tuned for more updates if there's anything we can do to support the residents there, because we could foresee there continuing to be problems if they aren't investing more money into fixing it up. Another update is they are changing the property management company that they use just across AHC in general, hoping it might be better. There's also a phone number. So if there's ever tenants coming to us and complaining about conditions at AHC properties, there is a phone number that goes to like AHC leadership that they can call. I don't know the best way to share it out, but it's 703-271-8425. So I don't know how to share that, but just good to know. And just like, what do we do when people come to us with complaints? We also, Kellen and I are scheduled with Tenant Landlord Commission chair to continue to coordinate on complaints that people have. So overall, I think it was just an eye-opening experience doing some listening, and I think that's something we should continue doing as a commission. Any comments, questions on that?
So has most of the feedback been on, I guess you're looking at tenants in existing buildings with existing issues, or has there been any talk about how, when projects come in, how that engagement, is that in the sense that people do they not necessarily care? They care about obviously their situation, because that's immediate versus, others, or how, I don't know, how's that kind of, is there any sense of what they're?
it's hard because it's hard to get feedback from people if they're not aware of how housing development planning works in Arlington. It's hard to kind of help them make that connection to how that could benefit them. But obviously, like people are complaining about high rents across the board and rents increasing, so we can make that connection that if we have more affordable housing built, that would help people. In addition to, like you said, problems with existing housing. But overall, we're trying to find out like how can people engage better in these processes? So we're still working on that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the CETF. Then we've got SIDSAC. Anyone doing that? No. Okay. HALRB. Is that you, Joe? Okay. No updates. Okay. Community Services Board.
No.
No rep. Okay. And then finally, the Climate Commission, C2E2. The only thing I've heard is that the green buildings policy keeps getting pushed back. So now it's pushed back to the fall and they're trying to like redo it kind of. So yeah, it's taking a while, but I'll keep you guys updated on that. Also, by the way, Kellen and I are meeting tomorrow with Mark Schwartz, Matt, and JD on, Kellen just wants to follow up on the fair housing recommendations we've made and whether, what they're doing to implement those things. So like becoming a fair housing assistance program, like the, how the money is being spent for fair housing, things like that. Okay, I think that was all the updates.
Yeah, legislative priorities subcommittee will be July 30th.
Okay.
It'll be very cool.
Thanks, Becky. Okay, I guess we are adjourned.
Better record.
No, we did one.